meet up. Look on the ASA. My gosh, they're all going against the wind.
It was basically a cube with inside of a sphere where the points of the cube were touching the outside of the sphere.
Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get.
So this isn't anything that just is limited to the United States. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to That UFO podcast. My name is Andy, and we have a breaking news update, which is always fun to do, and maybe a little bit unexpected at this late in the year. Dan joining me, of course, for it. Dan, how are we?
I am fantastic. This week just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it?
It does. So that is a nice way, I think, to round off the year, isn't it? And kind of tie things up with a bow. If you haven't seen yet and you're listening to this and getting your news from us, which so many of you tell us you do, thanks. But the NDAA, the National Defence Authorization Act, has been signed by President Joe Biden, and that in effect, or puts into effect a lot of things. There are tons of amendments and bits and pieces of info that especially if you're outside of the US, you don't have an interest in. But the one little piece that we were very, very interested in was Senator Gillibrand's amendment, that, or one of them, even then, to go into the minutiae, one of those amendments of Senator Gillibrand. I've said Gillibrand and Gillibrand already. Christ, I've covered all bases. Yeah, Gillibrand. Was the UFO office, as we're all calling it. And we're finally going to officially, for 2022, have a UFO office in the United States government that is funded and is going to be reporting and collecting. Actually, Dan, what is it going to be doing? Because this is something I see a lot of people commenting on online. Do we know yet officially what it's going to be doing?
We know some of what it's going to be doing. There are some things that are up in the air at the moment. For example, the name.
Ironically,
they haven't even named it. We went through Astro, ATRO, then we got the Pentagon announced AOI MSG. So, it's all in a name. It'll be curious to see what they call it. We'll have details of personnel involved to come ahead of us as well as it does require the head of the UAP office to come up with a scientific study plan for the phenomena. And that's where a lot of people are hoping that some kind of, committee and external people can come in and kind of give a hand. AOI MSG, we don't know what's going to happen to that yet.
I was going to ask you that.
It's up in the air because it kind of does a lot of the same stuff, but it's nowhere near as extensive. This one, where I can run through a couple of points if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So basically this bill establishes for the first time, for the first time in US history, Congress has legislated on the UAP issue. There is now language with which we can hold people that we think are keeping secrets about this to account. Whether the law does what it's going to do is anyone's guess, but we finally have an actual factual lever to do something through.
And can I just mention on that, Dan, for anyone, and I still have the conversations with folk online, and I love it. I love when people interact, good, bad, indifferent, reasoned debate, whatever it might be. But people who still say there is no progress and nothing's happened for years or decades, and I look and go, just that one thing you've said alone, that within, the Congress, they've actually talked about UFOs. I know the language of UAPs and all that kind of stuff, but they effectively are discussing stuff in the sky that they don't know what it is, which is what any of us in this topic have wanted for so long. So even putting everything else aside that's happened, of which there has been a ton, and we're going to cover that in our 2021 highlights show in a few days, that's huge. If nothing else happened this year and you were told that's going to happen, it's a win, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. People always compare this to Blue Book, but the Blue Book was run by the Air Force. It was, they were mandated, they were told to, phooey the notion of the phenomena. They were never there to study it. This office is. It has access to all these little crevices, all these different areas, all this different instrumentation. It has access to a lot of funding to do the job with, which is very important. it's mandated to report back to a lot of committees. Pretty much every committee is going to be reporting back to the House, to Congress. Finally, people are going to be informed on a regular basis. Just straight up front, if anyone's busy, I'll just tell you the dates now that you're going to be looking forward to. The first briefing from this office will come within 90 days of the bill being signed. So that's today. That takes us to March 27th, 2022. By then, we may hear senators and other officials start talking about this more openly. I imagine by then we'll have, all the computers will be set up in the office. We'll know who's working there maybe, or some of the people at least. We'll know a bit more about what they're going to be doing scientifically and who they're going to be working with. And then we get our first report by Halloween 2022, which is October 31st if you don't celebrate Halloween. So they are going to be doing a whole bunch of things. The standouts for me are that one, this is a 4-year fully funded office. So we've got this until Halloween 2026 now. So if you're a little exhausted by this whole thing over the past few months, take a break, have some champagne, put your feet up. You've earned it. But there's going to be a lot of work ahead. It's going to be coordinating with the FAA, NASA, Homeland Security, the NDAA, the Department of Energy as well, who we know is kind of a potentially a big player in the history of keeping this secret. It's going to standardize reporting, recording, syncing data. But importantly, they're going to be studying adverse physiological effects as well. So we're no longer, at no point during this study, they're going to be asking, are UAP real? That's a done deal. We established that already. Now we're talking about intent. We're talking about capturing and exploiting the technology. We're talking about the effects it had on our bodies when we get too close, if it's electromagnetic radiation or whatever it is. So this, for me, is very much kind of, it's open season. All of these efforts like UAPX, UFO data, studying the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch, the Galileo project, all of these have just been given the thumbs up by the US government. And that's insane. So if you know a little project out there that's trying to get off the ground, or you know of an area near you that has like stories of these spooky lights, there has never been a better time for you to buy a couple of gadgets on Amazon and go tackle it and figure out if it's prosaic, because we need to start checking these off. It's time to do the work.
That is right, and I'm glad you said that. Last night we done the live raffle draw, and Lou joined us, Lou Elizondo, for the second half of the show, and he said himself something that we've both said previously: the hard work starts now. It's a time to go, yep, great, well done. But I suppose this is a bit like a football or soccer team playing like a league season. You've won a game, you've won an important game, but you've not won the league yet, and you have to keep going. And if you dwell on this too much, then it could fall flat on its face. And it is very much the hard work starts now. You have to, and this is something I tend to do in life, is I don't dwell on kind of successes. It's, yep, great, let's move on. What's next? Let's keep going, because this isn't infallible. And people that say we've been here before, maybe not exactly here, but there's been progress to extents before. And I think it's important that it keeps going. I've got a few questions, Dan, off the back of some of the stuff you've just said and things I've been thinking about.
Yeah,
and
sure. I was going to talk about what we can expect in the report, but ask those first.
I'll come to that, yeah. So, March 27th, you've said we might know who is involved. Is there a chance that you think we could lose people like Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, or others to this office? Or do you see the office being people and names that we don't really know in terms of UFOs, UAPs?
There's going to be a lot of, officials doing this thing that we do not know, and we may never know. It might take someone else down the road, when efforts kind of get stonewalled, resigning and doing what Lou has done, and kind of guiding the rest of us to the water, so to speak. But I think, I hope there will be some familiar faces there for us, just because there are some trustworthy faces. For me, as much as I would be sad to lose publicly interfacing with Lou Elizondo, I also think he's extremely well equipped to be put in an office that studies this thing, because there's a history to it, So it would be a bittersweet, I think, for me.
Does Lou's situation with the Inspector General and all that's going on in the background affect this, in terms of they maybe wouldn't want to get Lou back involved in that sense. Is that something you have an opinion on?
Yeah, I mean, the way that all the offices are set up, the Inspector General is a completely separate thing. So, you know, there would be rules kind of saying that no investigation can affect someone's career and stuff like that. So there will be a fairness there that wouldn't be the case if this. Can you remember when AOI MSG was launched and we were all just a bit disappointed and we were trying to communicate why? And Lou explained it really well. He kind of said the umbrella that office sits under isn't really an investigative umbrella. It's just, you know, it's there. Well, this sits above that umbrella, basically. So there's no chance that anyone in the Pentagon can go, you know, Susan Goff, for example, can say, Lou Elizondo, I don't really like him for personal reasons or whatever, keep him from the office. If he's qualified, he will be qualified on his merits alone. And you know, hearsay won't play into it. The people there are professionals. That's their job.
Okay, you mentioned we've got this till 2026. What happens if President Biden leaves office before then, for whatever reason? We don't need to go into all of those, but you know, he's not a young guy. There was always rumours that he would come in and Kamala Harris, although again, I'm not huge on US politics, but I hear her approval ratings aren't as strong as they were and all that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, if Biden leaves office, can that affect this?
Yeah, like all things in the US, you know, we've all learned all around the world over the past few years that things can be done and they can be undone by the presidents. The amazing thing about this issue is how bipartisan it's been. So I really don't see anyone coming in who's gonna, you know, start complaining about wasted money for a long while yet. And like I said, we've established it's real. So it's just discussing whether it's worth studying now. So yeah, I think it'll carry on. It's just a case of how much funding it's given, you know.
Okay, and now I'm going to play devil's advocate and try and take off my UFO fan hat a little bit here. Is it fair to say that, and I'm trying to represent everyone who can listen to this or does, that a lot of the support for this bill could come from or has come from people who look at this as, rather than ET or whatever that might be, non-human technology, there's a good chance some or a lot of it is still adversarial technology. And while people like Chris Mellon kind of poo-pooed that a little bit, and for me, I mean, all the respect in the world to Christopher Mellon, I would love to ask him about this because I don't think I've seen him discuss it. He commented that one of the Chinese rockets had fallen on a rural farm road and that they were so far behind US technology. But then within weeks of that article and China's rocket falling out the sky, we find out they've tested a hypersonic missile that's flew around the Earth that apparently the US had no idea they had that technology. So for me, that was quite a disparaging, you know, gap in what they thought they knew and what China actually had.
Part of it, I think, is to do with how the media communicates stories. You know, I'm sure in China there are articles about the SpaceX spaceships not even getting off the ground and exploding and being like, oh, look how terrible the technology is. But we all know tests fail. That's how you make the good thing. So I think that's what we're seeing there. But and I think yeah, I've addressed this before, but I think with the drone argument and the adversarial technology argument, all of this stuff exists in the same data pile. And there's almost like an inkling inside me that thinks that this is happening now because the adversarial technology thing is happening now. You need to tackle both at the same time because they exist in the same areas and they both exist in that, you know, the niche that you're not really addressing. But to keep them, their officers safe and all their crew and personnel safe, they need to address both. So there's no worry of this becoming just a drone thing. You know, we have the, or rather, I should say, I don't know if we're going to have the buckets like we did with the UAPTF for the prosaic stuff and the other bucket. But I imagine there would be a kind of a sense of a working tree to work through like that when studying cases. So the adversarial tech is one of those 5 buckets. And there's like weather phenomenon and US secret tech and things like that. But that other category exists for a reason. And like I said to you before, I think it's kind of named in a tongue-in-cheek way, the others and all that.
Yeah, I would think so. And do you know what? I think it is a good thing, and you're right about the drone technology has probably helped this come along, and without the advancements in drone technology, like, and I'm not even talking about commercially, obviously I'm talking about military industrial complex, what they have is probably mind-blowing stuff, and some of it probably is pretty close to what we would look at as exotic technology, and what it can and can't do. So it's probably been a really good thing in terms of helping this office come into existence, that maybe some of these events like the Omaha, the Russell, whatever, Nimitz, Princeton, other ships that we've not even heard of have these drone incursions where the tech is totally so incredible that they don't know what it is. But like you say, in those investigations of 144 cases, they find out one was a balloon. They find out 50 or 60 of those. Yep, we have to investigate these. Or they were drones from Russia, China, whatever. But we still have this, as you say, other pile that we don't think these are drones because it done this and it done this, and the pilot saw it up close and it didn't look like that other one. So that's the kind of interesting stuff, I suppose, that we look for, and that other category is definitely
exactly
the one to keep the eye on.
I think we'll probably get to the first report, and people will just kind of be like, 30 pages of it about drones. And the rest of it is what we want. But like I say, it's all in the same place. So it's super important to go through and to filter all of it.
I think I said to you anyway, Dan, and I've said to a few people, like, if and when some of this technology comes out are drones, then that's fascinating still to me, that, where did they learn to do this, and how can they go this speed, and how can they now do this, and where do these things, batteries, if they run on batteries, or, if it's fuel, how does that work? Because there seems to be really game-changing technology in some of this stuff. So even if it is Russian, Chinese, US, there's a lot of wow factors still in that for me, totally aside from, but what about the exotic, the non-human stuff, which we're pretty sure is part of it as well. So, Dan, social media, early reactions, it's been a huge win, doesn't it? People are pretty happy with the results here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another one of those things like the James Webb Telescope and the awesome raffle we did. Just no one's going to bring us down on this. This is fantastic. Just if we wouldn't get slapped with copyright, I would play Kool and the Gang Celebration right now.
Yeah, I was going to say I could probably do it on the way out, but I would absolutely get slammed for copyright. But yeah, listen,
I was just going to say before, and we start wrapping, the main things to remember that are going to be in the report, like we're going to have an unclassified section to those reports. The people who aren't sharing data are going to be named and shamed in it. So if the Air Force doesn't play ball, they're finally going to be held to account, and everyone's going to know that that's what they're doing. They're putting people at risk. The UAP task force, or AOI MS, the UAP task force here, it says that it will be terminated. So I guess farewell, long live that. And then those reports cover any events that haven't been mentioned before, including there's a whole section where they talk about cooperating with allies. So I imagine there's going to be quite a few global events in one of those reports. And the first report is hopefully thick.
Yeah, two things just to wrap up. We have to give Connor O'Brien a shout out. He is a defence reporter covering Congress for Politico, and he broke the news that the act had been signed, and I think that's what a lot of people are seeing being retweeted on social. So awesome. Thank you, Connor.
That's right. We do have a nice Yahoo News article with it as well now, so nice two-source win.
And we should see those flooding in as well, shouldn't we, and a bit more coverage on the news and stuff. And if people haven't yet listened to it, because it was a little bit of a different show, the raffle announcements, we did have Lou Elizondo on the second half hour of that, which was great, and we did talk a little bit UFOs on there, and he gave some interesting opinions on what was going to come up. And I asked him the question of, and I thought he would give the answer about the amendment of what was his highlight of 2021, and he didn't say that.
Yeah,
so that was interesting. So yeah, people should go and check that out as well. But it's a good news. It's a good way to kind of end off the year. There's still at least one more show to come from us before New Year, talking about the highlights of 2021. People have sent in a load of those for us to talk through as well. And we'll just kick on from there. But Dan, good way to end 2021.
Yeah, amazing. I'm so proud of the community for the raffle. I'm proud of everyone that contributed to getting this bill done and through, even, the newcomers who may not be stooped in UFO law. But I think we get one shot to do this properly. And it looks to me like that's the thing we're getting. So congratulations, everyone. Keep your eyes on, the news, and hopefully some of the senators will start speaking up soon and we'll hear some more, especially, the name. I want to know what it's called. I need to make a patch.
Yeah, maybe send in some guesses for that one as well. But yeah, awesome. Thank you, folks, for listening, and we'll speak to you soon. That is all for this week's show. Thank you very much for listening. Please remember to leave the podcast a review on your chosen platform. You can like, retweet, and subscribe. That would all be very much appreciated. The shows are being uploaded onto YouTube as we speak more and more. You can sign up at patreon.com/That UFO podcast to access the shows ad-free as well. Please get in touch on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, That UFO podcast. Of course, on Twitter, it's at UFO UAPAM. And again, folks, as always, keep looking up. You never know what you might see.
It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer, more like a hubcap designed by Chaucer, a little baroque and quite steampunk, like Alice was playing bass for the Parliament of Folk. The little fucker hovered right outside of my window, and when I shoved out the screen, he made it an issue. I don't think he expected me to see his ass, but I'd had some champagne and smoked a little grass. Meditative gamma state full on meta. Can't imagine how it could have been any better. I got to the top of the stairs and there he was. Like, you awake? I was about to abduct you, cuz. I jumped back and nearly kissed myself, and I climbed out the window after the elf, and I woke up in my bed and there was something on my head and everything was weird and everything was red. And I called out to my boys. They thought this was noise. They thought it was a dream. They thought it was my toys. They thought it was my problems, and they think I should seek therapy, and I don't know what it is because it doesn't really scare me. If you really want to know who I think may be, I think it's you and me and us and we and him and her and that and she and that thing over there and what's that, Jake? But if we're being serious, open your mind, consider your heart, consider time, consider your space, consider your lies, consider your life, consider your eyes. It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer.
What's that in the class with you that sonic boom? Got sleep paralysis and got wheels in my room.
It wasn't a tic-tac and not quite a saucer.